Hi, Pete.
Hello, Salla. How are you?
I'm good. What about you?
Doing well.
Very good. Pete, you have been a Zonta member for over 30 years, which is very, very remarkable, of course. What made you first join Zonta?
Well, I had recently been hired at our local community college to implement a welfare to work program. And as part of that, there was also a displaced homemakers program that I was responsible for. And not my dean, but another dean came to me and said, Pete, you ought to think about joining this organization. And I've been a member for a long time called Zonta. And in fact, her husband was a member as well. So he was the first member of our club. And, in academic circles, when a dean, even if it's not your dean, suggests that you do something, you follow it. You follow that advice. And so I went to the meeting, an orientation meeting, and, it certainly I could see how it would be supportive in the work that I was doing. And it was something to be more involved in the community, which our institution really supported. And so I joined.
Great. And
And
yeah, what has kept you engaged during all these years?
well, initially, I think it was, the dean's push. But the other thing, I'd worked in a lot of human services and educational activities most of my career at that time. And it was predominantly women. And so I was, comfortable in that sort of environment. But what I also found attractive about Zonta was that I got to meet women who were from a lot of different professions
Hmm.
and viewed the world a little bit differently than some of the traditional public service employees that I worked with. There were entrepreneurs, there were lawyers, there were judges, there were small business owners. And so I enjoyed that, and I was attracted to the mission. I had a daughter, wife, sisters. At that time, I didn't have a granddaughter, but now I have a granddaughter, and I care about the world that they have to live and work in,
Hmm.
and I've always seen the inequities there, and saw that Zonta was doing that. And not too much longer, I got involved through our Sister Cities program with Ukraine, and they asked me to help start a Zonta club in Uzgrad. And so all those things kind of came together, and had a lot of positive outcomes, and really met some great people. Some of those original members are still my friends today, some of my closest friends. So it just met a lot of needs for me, both personally, emotionally, and politically as well.
Great to hear. How has this shaped your perspective on gender equality?
When I was growing up in the 70s, things were sort of changing, but it was a very unusual time because we had come from the more traditional, our parents were very traditional, and the world was changing all around. And I learned so much in the last 30 years about the importance, and my awareness of the differences are much more acute. Things that, you know, before I joined, I wasn't even, on one hand, I was aware that there were issues, obviously, intellectually. So, but not to the extent that I've learned. Being able to make a difference has always been a part of my life. And so, for example, we just recently passed new legislation in Oregon that ended child marriage, and to have a direct involvement with some of my other Zonta colleagues and other allied organizations was very rewarding. But you really felt like we actually did make a difference.
Right. Now we are in the middle of the Zonta Says No campaign. This year we have wanted as an organization to highlight that gender-based violence is not just a women's issue, it's a societal issue. Why do you believe men and boys have such an important role in ending the violence against women?
One of the reasons is that we can't really be silent anymore, which is, I think, lots of times men would be maybe kind of aware without really being, aware, and just kind of like, well, that happens someplace else. That doesn't happen in
Right.
my community. And what we know is that it happens everywhere, and at all income levels, at all education levels. And it's important for us to speak out to make a difference. That's the only way it's going to change. And I think, also what's probably making that a bigger issue and easier is the role that's changed between a lot of men and their daughters. Fathers have been really big champions of their own daughters in like athletics. So when athletics has become a more equal thing, dads really got behind that, and that exposes them to, other issues. That gender violence could happen to your daughter is a pretty big motivating factor. Or if it does happen, because we know it does.
Exactly. You noted that many men, of course, kind of are aware it, but not perhaps too vocal about it.
Uh-huh.
Um, how do you think that how could we change the narrative so that men would really see that this as their responsibility and not just something for women to fight against?
I wish I had that magic answer to that
I know
question,
it's a difficult question.
but I think just having conversations about it and getting it out in the open instead of it being something that's been for many, many years kind of hidden away that we really didn't talk about, and getting involved. When you see something that intellectually tells you something's not right, that you get involved and you say something, and maybe it's as simple as making a call to 911 when you're hearing, that a fight is happening or you've seen some indications.
Right.
Um, we need to get to the point where everyone is so shocked, and also explore more reasons about why it happens. Recognize that like any other condition, there it really is a mental health issue as well,
Hmm. Right.
and that there's viable treatment. Having conversations, getting people involved, but having it be more normal
Yes.
for men to be involved in Zonta and not have it be such a big thing, and in other
Right.
groups as well.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and that brings in more conversation, more opportunities to educate.
Very good. I agree with your points, and it's great that we have male members and who are willing to talk and make issues familiar with other men. Sometimes it might be easier to discuss with another man in a unofficial conversations, within hobbies, at the workplaces, or among friends. But to talk, that's
Mhm.
important issue. What do you think that we women can actually do to create an environment where which would then encourage more men to get involved in advocacy for women and girls, and perhaps not only in terms of ending violence against women, but overall of advocating for women's rights.
Well, I think that it's important to recognize when we're kind of using stereotypes, and getting past I guess I would call it the view that, oh, that some men are just evil, and whereas really, again, kind of going back, it's a significant health issue as well, mentally, and that people need to recognize that there are so many triggers for men now. I think just engaging with men, and as we know with female members, there's lots of things that keep members involved,
Right.
and it's not just about the mission. That's kind of a pretty easy thing to be supportive of.
Right.
You know, who doesn't want to see the world be a better place for women and girls? But I think it's being inclusive. Um, you know, my other my longtime male colleague that's been in our club for uh, a long, long time, longer than me, he frequently will say when another member will say, "Now, ladies," or
Right.
whatever, he'll say, "Wait a minute, we have some men here too."
That's good.
Uh, and it's somewhat done in fun, but it's also a little bit, kind of a reminder that,
Of course.
um, I always just feel like I'm really a Zancian first, and the fact that I'm a male is really secondary. Um, of course, there's sometimes when that's really obvious. Uh, when you go to a major convention and you realize that maybe there's only three or four of you that are there at this Zonta event, and so you feel like, okay, I have to be on my best behavior. Uh, you know,
Right.
everybody always knows at our district meetings who I am,
Of
and
course.
my memory is not quite as good sometimes, so I forgetful about, all of the women that are there. I don't remember every single woman's name, but so I think just being kind of inclusive and just treating us like members,
Right.
not like a male member, not like a female member, but that I should just be treated as a member. I actually, this has been a number of years ago, but I belonged to two clubs. Corvallis was
Hmm.
my first club, but I went when I moved and went to a second club. They had never had a man before, and there were some members who were not very excited about that.
Right.
But then they learned that they didn't really have any choice because I was a member of Zonta International. That gives me the right to go to join any new club that I want to. And I always kind of joke that it must not have been too bad because I think it was 2 years later I was elected president.
Well done.
So, so we
Well
made some changed some views there, I guess.
Right. Yeah, but I guess the conclusion could be that, as you noted, of course, for us it doesn't really matter are we female or male as long as we support our mission, but long as we do need to work for our mission as such, we would like to welcome more male members to Zonta. So you would be a very good and are a very good role model in that sense that it can be very enjoyable to work for our mission, and you have learned a lot, and you have been receiving a lot while you have also, of course, been giving to the community and to the women and girls in Zonta and in the worldwide. Um, Perhaps when coming to an end of this little interview, one last question would be that if you would have one message to men around the world during this Zonta Says No campaign, what would it be?
I think I would say be aware and get involved.
Thank you. Very good.